the boss that I have, the NCO that's over me, I feel like he would have a problem with that statement saying play golf inside. He's a huge golf enthusiast.
Well, come to the lab in Monterey and I'll change his mind.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Draft Digest. The sickest NFL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
You know what? I've missed that intro, you guys. I've missed the intro because I have joined late. So that was great to hear how sick this is going to be. Welcome to the Sick Podcast Draft Digest. I'm your host, Emily Van Buskirk, and he is John Vogel. And we are back together for the first time in a long time for this episode. And I'm very excited.
Holiday season's passed. We talked about that.
The season's almost over. We've almost made it to the end.
Well, see, if you're of the religious spirit, you know, Christmas hasn't ended. Christmas has a 40-day season, and it'll end in February. So, I mean, that doesn't work well with commercialism, but you know.
Starting strong, you know. Just let's leave Christmas alone. I don't even like Christmas. Well, let's leave it alone. We're almost to the Christmas of college football, which is happening this coming Monday, the national championship. Who would have thought? Who on their bingo card had Miami versus Indiana? Because it wasn't me.
I don't think it was.
And I know it wasn't you. I know it wasn't you. As much as you love Kurt Cignetti, it was not you.
No. I thought that Oregon round 2 would be too much, and what we found was
there's
Indiana
nothing too much
round 2
for
is
Kurt
too
Cignetti. There's no amount of beer that's too much. There's no amount of football that's too much. There's nothing that's too much for this man. It's wild.
Okay, so let's before we get into the whole, let's look at the playoff kind of thing. You were actually at the Indiana-Oregon game, and so we talked about that, and I told you that I thought that you would change your mind a little bit once you saw Cignetti. So let's talk about it. What was your biggest takeaway with Indiana?
So here's what I'll say. The game, it started off like a normal game. You know, the warm-ups were what they were. The pageantry was what it was. It was my first Peach Bowl. So it was incredible to be able to see that matchup, you know, for a Peach Bowl for my first time. And it was a great semifinal. But from the beginning, I don't think anybody thought Dante Moore, who I think is an incredible quarterback, who forgot how to throw them. I don't know like how else to categorize it. He just like could not football that day. But from the beginning, it was Oregon shooting themselves in the foot. It was their game to lose. And that's not to take away from Indiana. Their defense impressed me beyond belief. I was so impressed with how well their defense is, how much they reminded me of old school football where they just hammered you. They went after it. They hammered you. It reminded me of, do you watch The Replacements? It's my favorite movie in the whole world. It really reminded me of the character that plays linebacker for them. And he's like, give me the ball. Are you going to give me the ball? Give me the ball. And he runs on the sideline. He's like, I got you the ball. That's like every Indiana defensive player is that guy. Yeah. So, I mean, that was impressive. Now, offensively, I understand that they're good and they put up a lot of points. I don't think Oregon made it that difficult for them to do so. Okay. I'm still not sold. And you know me, this is what I was doing during the game. I was texting a bunch of Fernando Mendoza's old teammates and coaches, trying to understand why this is so shocking to everybody and who, you know, trying to give you guys some information on who this guy really is from people that played with him before Indiana. Because this is the same guy. He's playing the same football. It's just it's a different scheme that fits him perfectly. Cignetti's got some special relationship with him. I do admire the drive and I admire the moxie that comes out of this program. Do I think it's 100%? Like, I don't know. There's something still for me that I'm like, I got to see it to the end. If they win and they beat Miami handily or even well enough, and they show up the same team that they've been showing up, then I'll walk away and say, you know, my off feeling in my heart, it's just a failed women's intuition. Okay. But right now, there are still some questions for me. There's still some things that I'm curious about. So do I think Miami's going to answer those questions against Indiana? No, but I also didn't think they'd be here. So what do I know?
Well, see, I've kept saying continuously we weren't going to talk about quarterbacks until February when we actually had something to talk about, but
How can we not?
the season's happened. The playoffs have happened, and now we have some stuff to talk about. So, as of day of recording, Dante Moore has basically said that he's going back to school with
Yeah.
Dylan Raiola on his heels. That is going to be an interesting story to watch next year. So,
Yeah.
Dante Moore officially out of the picture. Looking forward to seeing what he does next year at Oregon, and they're reloading right now. Their portal acquisitions outside of Dylan Raiola have. I think on the side of Ty Simpson, Alabama quarterback, has declared for the draft. His dad came out. His dad is also a football head coach. I believe that he's been at, I want to say it's Tennessee Tech or Tennessee. It's one of those places up there.
Yeah.
He said that they called NFL general managers and they didn't get anything except first round grades.
Okay.
My bullshit meter says that is probably about a 5 out of 10.
I mean, you're not going to say otherwise, even if it was otherwise, but yeah.
Yeah, but why? Why? Because here's the problem. If it is true, cool. Then this is a good year this is a great year to come out because this is such a uncertain quarterback class.
Yeah.
The guy that I really liked at the beginning of the year ended up being benched the last 3 games of the year. And now we're like, is the guy coachable? Another guy that a lot of people like, Drew Aller, tore his ACL. And so
I knew that was
how does that work for him? It doesn't.
You were really close. University of Tennessee at Martin. UT Martin.
Thank you. Tennessee Martin. That's right. Okay. I knew it was one of those that in that conference in the SoCon.
Jason Simpson.
And his little brother's playing at Westview as well right now, which is
it's a football family right there.
2A school. He's a 3-star prospect that might be a little high. I went and looked at him a little bit, but he's not his brother at all. But
what gives you pause and reserve about? I mean, obviously, like saying that it's all first round draft feedback is a lot, but like, what gives you pause about that?
Well, it's the fact that he hasn't played a lot. So first off, you've got the 15 starts that he had this year, which, okay, that's a season.
Okay.
We've seen in recent history that a lot of guys that have struggled to come into the NFL playing with one season as a starter. Anthony Richardson, I think, is our latest example. And the Colts are looking for are going to either re-sign Daniel Jones or they're going to bring in somebody else this year. That's kind of the problem when you got a guy that hasn't played a lot, is that they haven't seen a lot and they don't quite understand how to process.
Yeah.
They might understand, the steps to it, but you want to think of it like, I'm sure a lot of people have done theater, whether it was in school, whether they did some sort of performance. When you're doing a performance, you have a script, you have certain things that you're expecting to happen. And what kind of makes a great actor great or a great performer great is when the unexpected happens and you move on without a glitch. And what that takes is experience.
Yeah.
In the NFL, if a defender drops into a zone that you're not expecting him to drop into because that's not the look that you got when you watched him on tape for the whole week prior to the game, and you don't know how to react to that because you haven't seen it, that's a problem. And that's usually the issue that we see with a lot of these quarterbacks that haven't started a lot of games. They don't react well to situations that they're not familiar with.
Yeah.
Like we watched 44-year-old Phillip Rivers come back into the league, my favorite all-time player. Watching him on Monday Night Football, it was a terrible loss at the end. They ran away, but that whole first half, you could hear him at the line of scrimmage dicing that defense apart because he's seen it all. He knew exactly what they were doing.
There's nothing you could throw at him. Yeah.
That's experience, and also probably helped that he's, been coaching high school football for 4 years and had seen some of the evolution here. And now he's got a totally new perspective to it. That might've helped too. But, that's what Ty Simpson's going to be lacking going in this process. And then we've seen him really struggle when things break down. especially later in the year. The Auburn game was rough. The Indiana game obviously was really rough. And then he had the Florida State game at the very beginning. So you saw him grow and then take almost this regressive step at the end of the year.
Well, and he didn't get a lot of help to a degree from certain parts of the offense. And you have to wonder if he's going to go as high as he thinks he is, or they're saying he is, he's going to go to a team that isn't going to have all those pieces either necessarily. So it's going to be more of that. You're going to have to support yourself and figure these things out. You may not have the line. You may not have the running game support as well. So it is curious. I wouldn't take a chance on that because that seems a little risky.
I think that it's going to be a crazy offseason still. I'm holding to that with quarterback movement. Murray's going to move. Tua's going to move. There's going to be a couple other parts that come into play as we get into the season. Rodgers probably retires.
No
so
way.
The Steelers will be open too. I know, crazy, right?
Forever.
Everybody's retiring this year.
But that's the thing about this time in our lives, in our country, in our wherever we are in the universe. It is the time of throwbacks. We're seeing more references to 2016 than I've ever seen. People are posting pictures on Instagram from 2016 because we want those good days back. So if you are a quarterback that used to play and still has it and can get up out of the chair and do it, this is your time to come back.
Well, Matt Ryan's out of the running automatically. He's the vice president of football for the Falcons now. But
yes, which is a good move, and I love seeing that too. I was just talking to my husband the other day. I know we've talked a lot about this with the Stanford and the Cal aspects of moving these former players into GM roles. This is the only thing I like about college football right now is that we're having guys come back into programs that were players and make them great again. I think that is the best thing about college football right now. And I'm excited to keep seeing that. And it's fun to see it at the NFL level as well.
And it's going to continue too, because we were blessed with a generation of players that loved football and don't want to do anything else with their lives.
It might have been the last generation who really loved it.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully that passion continues to pour onto the future generations. Right. We're going to find out, obviously. Yes. But that was something that we've been blessed with this past generation of football players, with the Tom Brady generation and all those guys that came through. Is these guys loved football and they don't want to do anything else. But let's go ahead and talk about Mendoza now, because I've talked about the other two. Let's talk about Mendoza. And I want to preface this by saying, damn you, Daniel Kelly, for going on to Jason Whitlock this week and ruining my spiel that I'm about to go into. But
really?
Yeah, he went on there and eviscerated him, but more so for playing his style of play. It was a terrible evaluation. And I mean, you wouldn't expect anything less from Daniel Kelly, but a former New York Jet scout bullshit. But when you get into when you look at Mendoza, I've talked with a bunch of different people that have worked in the league, that are working in the league. Mm-hmm. I wanted to vet this opinion before I said it publicly. And here's my big intro to it. They all agreed with me. Every single one of them. Fernando Mendoza is the guy that goes home before he goes to bed, stands in the mirror, and practices his post-game speech and his touchdown celebrations. I would bet my life on it. That's what he does. I've never seen a guy script his Heisman Trophy monologue, acceptance speech, and put it on a teleprompter. Never seen that in my life. Until Fernando Mendoza. You can see it on there. I've never seen a guy get up there and fake emotion either. So obviously. And there's something about this guy that's not genuine. And I'm not saying that because I don't like him or it's anything like that. He's a good football player. He can go out there. He's got a good arm. He can sling the ball to the sidelines. He can make some really, really good throws. And he's pretty darn accurate with it too. My question becomes, When this guy walks into a locker room in the NFL, how does he sell himself to the team as the leader? Am I going to draft this guy and want him to develop into the leader of my franchise? This was the question with Kirk Cousins when he came out. And a lot of people have compared Mendoza to Cousins. I think that play style, he's probably more Jared Goff. But personality-wise, there's a lot there that's like Kirk Cousins, where kind of over the top, sort of different bird, different breed of person. And I would be worried about how that's going to transition to an NFL locker room. So obviously things change when you play well. So if he goes out there and he balls out, you're going to have a whole lot less to worry about. But when the pressure starts to come, when things don't go right, you got to have the tenacity and the leadership ability to keep that team interested, keep them motivated, keep them focused. And if you're not a genuine person, you can't do that. And that's my critique of Fernando Mendoza. I think that he's sneaky enough of an athlete to be able to extend plays, and he can do a lot of good things. He can. But I worry about his ability to keep a locker room together. I don't think that he's first-round pick material. I don't think he's first overall pick material. But I think that there's a really good chance that he goes there because this quarterback situation is going to be dire this year. And he's clearly the best one in this bunch. So there's my spiel. There's my take on Fernando Mendoza.
I have not had the pleasure or luxury of talking to him too much one-on-one, although I am looking forward to being in Miami this weekend and media days on Saturday. So I do have some questions for him. Mainly, I want to do a story about how Cal, as a university, as a program, as a fan base, has rallied around him, even though he left and abandoned I would say abandoned, that's kind of mean, but he left the program.
Everybody abandons every program these days. This
Exactly.
is the transfer portal age, yeah.
That's the word then, but they still root for him actively. I mean, the algorithm loves Fernando Mendoza, and I find that so interesting. So I want to ask him about that. If he sees that, if he knows that, if he hears from people at Cal, because I did speak to some people that he played with and that have coached him. And while I'm always looking for something interesting, like, oh, did he have any weird quirks, or did he have any pregame rituals that were strange? Because he does strike me as a bit of an odd guy. And I think you could say that about anybody that's a real fierce competitor, that they're odd. They're going to be a little weird because that's just the nature of the beast, right? And I wanted to read you one of the things. I'm obviously not going to say any names about who these people are, but I did, talk to someone who played with him. And they did say that he was a different guy personality-wise. Some people would say he's weird, others wouldn't. And he said that they reminded him of Kirk Cousins, like personality-wise, which I thought was an interesting. They did say he asks a lot of questions in meetings and tries to get like a really good grasp on things. So his curiosity and they said that a lot of the guys did like him. But there wasn't anything unique or out of the ordinary about his preparation other than he prayed a lot. He's very religious. And so that was a big part of his. So I just thought it was interesting. I mean, this person said they didn't hang out with him outside of football, so they didn't really know. And that makes me, I'm curious as to who the guys are that he does hang out with outside of and what they do and, what life would look like outside of the football field. Maybe there isn't much. He does strike me as maybe a guy who's just, the ball is life. That's what it is. Yeah. But everything that I've gotten from people is good. People say he's a really good guy. He is odd. He's a little, quirky and odd, but he's just a good guy and a good teammate. And I had one coach tell me that he would stay with other position groups and watch film for 2 extra hours with different position groups to try and just get more understanding of the game. And I thought that was really interesting because you don't hear that too often. Like you hear about guys being in the building, but you don't hear about them going outside of what they need to be doing and sitting in with other groups, I thought that was really interesting. So.
Yeah. I hope I don't say any of this to, hate on a guy or to try to put him down. And
no, not at all. We're just trying to figure out who he is and if he's going to be a good addition to an NFL locker room. I think that's a fair assessment to try and make.
This is what every team that has a chance to draft him is trying to figure out.
Doing the same thing we are. Exactly.
And it's because we're not saying, obviously not saying he's Jamarcus Russell, but we've had examples in the past, where people didn't pan out because you didn't do this type of research. This is part of it. And yes, because there's a lot of people, I think, that are going to criticize the take and say that it's based on, we don't have that kind of information, the same information that the league does. This is also true.
That's
So
true.
from
We
what I
only
can
have
see from my limited side,
right.
That's my take on it. And
but that's why we do the work to talk to people around him and to do these things, because that's how you get that information, is you talk to people who do know him and have played with him and can speak to those things. So if anyone wants to come for us in that regard, I did the work. I'm putting in the work to get to know who this kid is the best way I can. I don't have his phone number, so I'm not calling him up and being like, what's going on? What are we doing this weekend? But I'm excited. It's hard. I think the biggest thing that you and I have with it, if I could put it into words, is that we don't know what we don't know. So we don't know what that other shoe is. And it doesn't seem like there is one. So everyone's just kind of all in that this kid is perfect and there's not really a downside, right? But there's always a downside. There's always something. And the fact that that's not clear, I think, is what makes me a little nervous, because usually those are out in the open. Like, okay, Baker Mayfield, you knew what you were getting with him because he was open about it. And even guys with shortcomings on the field. But with Fernando, you don't really know if there is a shortcoming, what it is.
You get a script every time he talks,
Yeah.
And that's what.
Which, I mean, that says something in and of itself. If you take the time to script something out, what are you afraid that you're going to say, off the cuff? Maybe you're just not an off the cuff kind of guy. And that's something in and of itself. You kind of need to be off the cuff to lead an NFL locker room, right? To playoffs and to the Super Bowl. There needs to be some off the cuffness. So.
Yeah. And Indiana hasn't faced a whole lot of adversity this year either, And I think they had two tough games. They had the Penn State game, and they had the Ohio State game, and the Big Ten championship. Those were their tough games. Everything has gone really well. They haven't turned the ball over. Yeah. The defense has been stifling. And so that's just where we're at,
Everything's gone according to plan. And I want to see what happens when the plan gets blown up. I think Chris Spaghetti can handle a foxhole. I'm not sure Fernando Mendoza. I don't know what kind of guy he is in that regard. So maybe we'll see that, on Monday, because maybe Miami will come in and just, for a lack of better terms, F shit up. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I hope so.
I mean, they're a lot bigger in the trenches. It's going to be very
And it's in Miami.
It
is hard for me to imagine a team beating Miami that wasn't supposed to be in the Natty in Miami. Unreal.
Cinderella story would be perfected with a win. That's all we know.
It would.
Now, you mentioned talking about people coming after us. So that turns me to my next topic of discussion. We just got through the 2026 Hula Bowl. And
Did we get through it?
We limped through the finish. That's what we did. Man, where to start? Without going into a whole lot of detail. That's the problem.
What can you talk about is the question. What can you talk about?
Well, let's talk about the Hula Bowl and what it is. Let's start there. We can do that in 30 seconds. The Hula Bowl's been around for a long time. It took a break. It started back in the 40s down in Hawaii, took a break after the current owner acquired it, Nick Logan. He ran it after buying it from 2006 to 2008. Brought it back just in time for 2020. Gets a game on through COVID, goes through a hotel scheme where everybody who went to the hotel that year in 2021 used a third-party app to essentially book their hotel room that was found on the Hula Bowl official website. Except when everybody showed up to the hotel, their reservations were there unpaid after they paid through the app. They claimed it was a glitch. They're going to get their money back. Nobody ever did. So turned into a whole
confirmed nobody ever got paid back.
Well, there were a few people that did, and they looked into them. There's people that were smart enough to realize, hey, just dispute the charge on the credit card. Like, it was something simple like that. But for most other people, no, they didn't get their money back. This is players, this was agents, this was scouts in the NFL. This was anybody that was going down there that used the Hula Bowl website to book their hotel room. Well, they get run out of Hawaii over this. They go to Florida. They moved to Orlando. There's some high-level politicians that helped.
Anything goes in Florida, so there you go.
And so they get through. They start doing it in Orlando. They do it in 2022. Everything goes fine. 2023, payment issues started to arise where the broadcasting crew that was the UCF student team, they're one of the best student teams in the country when it comes to broadcasting sports. They filmed the 2022 game as well as did the 2023 and 2024 games. They were not paid for 2023. Certain high-level politicians pushed it through, told them they were doing 2024 anyways. They were not paid for 2024. 2025 rolls around, and they got the okay. No, we're not doing it. So the Hula Bowl broadcasted or advertised they would be on CBS Sports.
Right.
They had no intention of being on CBS Sports. They never hired a production team. And that's why it got canceled last minute. CBS Sports will hold the reservation. They buy the airtime. So they'll hold the reservation up to 24 hours before you're supposed to go. And so they cut it because they hadn't been paid for it yet. And
do you think there was ever
no game on?
Was there ever any intention of paying for it?
I think that year, no.
So it was just
this was last year, right?
Just to be able to say we were going to be on CBS, hold the spot, knowing we weren't going to actually do the broadcast.
Right. Yes. In 2026,
which is a marketing tactic. To be fair, it's a marketing tactic. It's not illegal. I mean, it's illegal to have a bill, but
it's a dishonest marketing tactic.
It is dishonest.
You have,
right.
You know, you have all these sponsors that signed up for it.
Right.
They signed up to help to advertise the game, to help them get through. And that's kind of what I spent the last year investigating this thing.
Yeah.
Most of what I've been able to talk about has been double sourced. Everything that I just said has, at least. Now, a lot of former employees are under NDAs. They won't speak about it. They are legally bound to not speak about it. So you're constantly navigating these NDAs and trying to figure out, okay, what happened? But ultimately what you kind of realize is this is a giant Ponzi scheme. It's a tax write-off for Nick Logan, their owner. It's and anything else that he doesn't write off in taxes pays last year's bills. And so the sponsors are constantly paying for the previous year. Well, that's why they moved to Daytona Beach this year. They ran out of sponsors that were willing to support the game in 2020 up in Orlando this past year because nobody got what they really felt like they should have gotten out of it. The CBS broadcast not happening as advertised. They were supposed to have ads on CBS Sports. We know this year they didn't even hire a production team to do this. And so there's a lot of dishonest practices that go into this entire event. And there's a lot of people that, work in this industry that cover these games, that cover the draft, that are silent on this. And I do not understand why. Because this is, at some point, you have to look back. Maybe I'm just an idealist. I don't know. But at some point, you have to look at this and say, I'm not going to be complicit in a guy swiping, money from people to put this event on. The Hula Bowl was also named in a lawsuit that Nick Logan recently lost that alleged he had brought them to the Hula Bowl, to parade them around NFL personnel and, college football players and, put them in front of all the stars of the event. And that was part of what sold them into their illegitimate business dealing. So if you're going to allow this guy, if we're going to continue to allow this guy to use this event to, continue his illicit businesses, that's problematic to me. I can't stand with that. It just physically, I cannot do that. And I refuse to cover the event this year outside of the issues they were having. Now, what issues did they have this year? The practice on day one. Also, the Grudens were coaching this game. They had a great coaching staff together. This is great marketing, and it was not on TV. The first practice was cut down basically to a walkthrough style practice. They didn't have enough players with pads. Some of the pads got shipped to Nick Logan's house in Bristol, Tennessee, instead of to Florida. And because they didn't have water on the field or trainers. So Yes, true story. So they
Did
had
the players
to.
sign waivers for any of this? Like,
Couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
that would be a big question of mine from a legal standpoint.
And this is the military. I mean, but it's like that. If I'm putting on an event like this that has anything to do with outdoors, anything physical, like the first thing I'm doing is making sure I got water. Personally, maybe that's
like
just
not
me.
that hard to get water. I feel like
so they didn't have water. They didn't have any electrolytes or anything till day 3. And I heard from a lot of people that were there and from the media as well. The access to the players was non-existent. They were constantly fighting to get their interviews. It was like they were kind of cut off.
Like
interviews were interrupted.
The bowl was not facilitating interviews with the players. They weren't making them available.
Right. Correct.
Did media members go around the bowl at all and to guys they knew directly?
Yes. They attempted.
They attempted.
And yes.
Oh,
yes.
no.
That's why you're not seeing a lot of content that came out of the Hula Bowl.
I don't think the only content I saw was your various tweets that said it will not be on. I'm pretty sure it was like everybody that said the game was on. I would see you quote tweet it and say, no, not on CBS. And that was the only thing I saw about it.
Yeah.
So it's wild that there wasn't more. I don't know. I mean, maybe that was by design. I feel bad for these players.
By the time we get to Saturday morning, several players left. Couldn't tell you who they were, but several players left. Several scouts left early without getting obligations done. They had interviews planned. They left. Didn't get them done with players. Saturday morning, I attempted to reach the Hula Bowl and ask what TV channel was going to be on. No response. And that's when Rick Saratella put out that Brian Baldinger was going to have it on his YouTube page. And what we got was a cell phone in the broadcasting booth set up, looking at between the 35s, which they tried to call it. They tried to give it a radio feel, but it really just took a lot away from the event. I think that really sucked with the way that this whole thing was done.
I will say the one image I did see of it was beautiful.
The field looked great.
Yeah, I mean, the logo was abnormally large center field logo, but just everything else that goes with this event, I think, is the problem. We've something has to be done. So we need different leadership. We need
yes, we need this. I will not support this game until Nick Logan sells. And I would encourage.
What we should do is someone should buy it and give it to the players and let it be the players' bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he won't.
Or the players by the players.
He will not move it. That's the problem. And people
he won't give it up.
This.
What if he has too many outstanding debts and then he has to forfeit it?
Somebody bring the lawsuit, please. Somebody bring the lawsuit, please. Yeah, I'll help you.
I do actually have a lawyer in the family, 2 of them. So please let me know. I will also volunteer some legal fees to help.
But that's
just awful for the players and their families. And I mean, this is like living, breathing dreams that you're crushing. It's awful.
Something needs to be done about it. And Brian Lamb with Draft Countdown did a story about it yesterday. Talking about
why haven't we seen like a bigger outlet doing a story? Like, why isn't ESPN?
There's not enough interest, and that's the thing that I found with a lot of these people. The people that have reached out to me, the people that have found me that worked with the event, that worked for Nick Logan, or the sponsors that were disgruntled. They've tried to go to ESPN. They've tried to go to these other outlets.
What about the players? I feel like it would really be impactful if a player came forward and talked about the experience and went on record, or several of them, preferably a name that people might recognize.
Yeah, but they don't want to put themselves in that position right now. Not when they're going through the draft process.
And maybe after, though. There's got to be guys from years past.
This is where we're at.
Put out an APB.
I would love it. I would love nothing more. I really would.
Tell us your story. We will tell it. Come on the podcast. Talk about it. Don't let this happen to other guys.
And let's not let this thing continue like this. Like seriously, we have plenty of other games that can fill in the void. We've got the College Gridiron Showcase with Mike Riddleman. We've got the American Bowl now with Scott Phillips. Even the Dream Bowl, I think, is a valid option that's down in, Arlington. They played in the Cowboy Stadium this past weekend. There's so many different events that you can go to that'll help you.
Yeah.
At a much higher level than the Hula Bowl can, because at this point, that's what it is. It's a joke. It's a joke. The scouts all know it. The teams all know it. And this is not going to end until agents stop sending their players there.
Yeah.
And that's when it'll end. But I spent the weekend I was pretty upset about it, and not because they kicked, not because of anything like this, but just because it's like, man, it's another year where this thing got off the ground, and they fought through all the things. And I'll give Todd Worley, the game director, a lot of credit, because I'm sure his head was spinning most of the week with all the different, shit storms that kept rising throughout the entire week. And he got it through, and he got it to kickoff, and they got a game on. So I got to give him all the credit in the world for that. That's an outstanding accomplishment in itself. But this thing, it's either got to close down or it has to change ownership to somebody who is going to run it the right way, that is going to really preserve the integrity of that game and the history of that game in a way that it deserves to be.
And that's the Hula Bowl.
That's my Hula Bowl deal. And, I've got a story with a lot more detail that I've been working on for a year, and it has been double sourcing all this stuff. That has been the problem. I want to make sure that I've got multiple people on the record saying this stuff before I release anything, because it's a crazy story. It's almost hard to believe that this is kind of perpetuated and been allowed to happen, but that's where we're at.
It's actually unbelievable. It's unbelievable, actually. So if you have a Hula Bowl story, please tell us your story.
Next week, the American Bowl rolls. That's going to be on NFL Network next Saturday. So there's some pretty good players down there we can get into. And then the week after that, we'll be able to get into some Shrine Bowl stuff and beat up to the Senior Bowl. And this is it. We're in draft season.
I'm just sitting here waiting to see if Dean Connors gets an invite to the Combine, because that is all I care about.
I saw today he got his invite to the Shrine Bowl, which I think I told him that was at least what he was going to get.
Okay. So that's good.
That is great. That is great. Okay. That's a good start. That is a good start.
Well, did you see my guy Gillenborg got invited to the Senior Bowl?
I did see that.
He did, yeah. Despite his injuries, everything that's been going on with him this year, he got invited to Senior Bowl, which is incredible. I'm going to drop a feature on him, I think, next week.
Hell yeah.
He's a great.
Before he goes to the Senior Bowl, look at that.
Yes.
Perfect timing. Get him hyped. Get him hyped for it. Let's go.
Get hyped. I love Gillenborg. He's incredible. For those of you who don't know, that's the Wyoming tight end, John Michael Gillenborg. Incredible.
And he's going to be a draft pick.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm fairly certain saying that he's going to be a draft pick.
I think people just want to see him move healthily, which I know is not a word, but they just want to see it. So he's going to be great. I'm excited. All right. Well, I'll be at the Natty, and then we'll check in next week, and maybe I'll have some Fernando Mendoza stories, maybe some Carson Beck stories. I don't know. Who knows?
Carson Beck is a whole nother thing. Oh man, that's a whole other deal. That is a whole other deal. Golly.
I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed in the musical lineup this year. They do an AT&T playlist live for the playoff. Like, it's a free concert. People can go. Last year was amazing. They had, oh my gosh, they had Gucci Mane, Camila Cabello. They had Lil Wayne perform. It was incredible. And then they've done country artists all over. But this year, you're in Miami. Who do you think? I mean, you think of a million artists that you could have in Miami. They are having Calvin Harris, which is interesting. And then they're having another DJ. The first night's all DJs, which, okay. And the next night, I think they're doing more heritage type music, Cuban and Spanish, which is interesting. And then the ESPN party is having somebody, and I can't say who it is, but it's going to be a really good one. And then they're doing the media party this year on a yacht, which I'm very excited about. So it's going to be a weekend. So if you see my Instagram stories, no, you didn't. Mind your business. I'll be back, on Tuesday.
I'm never on
live,
Instagram.
hopefully.
You don't have to worry about me seeing anything.
It
People
might
hit me
go on
up on
Twitter.
Instagram all the
Depending
time.
Depending on if my phone gets taken away or not, we may see some things on Twitter. I don't know. We'll see.
I guess we'll see. Cool.
We will.
Well, have fun down there and be safe.
Always.
And we got a
you
good
gonna take
game
us out
this weekend. Yeah, sure. Why not? Hey, this has been the Sick Podcast Draft Digest for Emily Van Buskirk. I'm John Vogel, and we'll be back at this thing next week. Jimmy, wrap us up.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Draft Digest on YouTube, X, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.